Welcome to this Tutor to You Sociology topic video on work, poverty and welfare, looking at new right explanations of poverty. New right ideology developed from functionalist ideas, and there are many links between functionalist ideas and the core tenets of new right ideology. The new right is a broader term that is often associated with the governments of the Conservative Party in the UK and the Republican Party in the USA from the 1980s onwards. It combines neoliberal economic policy focused on free trade and minimal state intervention with neoconservative social policies that focus on preserving traditional norms and values in society. As a result, they advocate minimal state intervention in personal lives, preferring individuals to take personal responsibility for their actions, often based on the assumption that society is meritocratic and there are equal opportunities for all. They promote ideas of competition and choice through the economy, and this extends to their ideas on the existence and persistence of poverty, often basing their view on the idea that poverty is a personal choice and that those in poverty simply don't work hard enough to make ends meet. In this video, we're going to analyse and critically evaluate some of the new right views on the existence and persistence of poverty. Two key figures in the new right discussion of poverty are David Marsland and Charles Murray. Both self-confessed libertarians, Marsland and Murray argue that poverty is a result of individual behaviour, that people choose poverty rather than are victims of it. They suggest that poverty is a result of individuals not being self-motivated to succeed, and the new right is critical of the role of state education in not preparing individuals with the skills they need to succeed in society. They see education as being bloated and inefficient, as they do most social institutions, and this has resulted in individuals not having the skills to succeed. They argue that the nanny state has provided too much through over-generous benefits and permissive social policies, and this has created a generation that are welfare dependent. Rather than seeing this as a structural issue, the new right suggests it is down to individuals, and particularly their cultural norms and values which are different to those of mainstream society. Those in poverty are different from those who are not in poverty. Marsland was a fierce critic of the existence of poverty in society, often accusing journalists, sociologists and charities of exaggerating the extent of poverty in the UK. Furthermore, he argued that some poverty is necessary in society as it provides a motivation for people to work. And this echoes the ideas of the functionalist Herbert Gans, who saw poverty as performing positive functions for society. Marsland argues that the more liberal social policies in the post-World War II era, including the creation of the welfare state, has created a culture of dependency whereby people were not required to work as social housing, healthcare and benefits were provided to them. Marsland's solution to this was to propose cuts to universal benefits such as healthcare, child benefits and education, and instead lower taxation, thus providing greater incentives to work. Marsland's ideas link to functionalist concepts such as meritocracy, with hard work being rewarded, whilst also conforming to neoliberal economic policies of reducing state spending and privatising key industries. He argued that by giving people more money in their pockets through lower taxation, they would have a choice over who would provide these services. However, cuts to social benefits have created the conditions for greater social exclusion, with limited access to healthcare, cuts to educational spending, and the creation of low-wage and zero-hour contracts, many of which amplify the effects of poverty rather than alleviating it. Charles Murray largely agreed with Marsland's ideas, going further to suggest that the culture of dependency has created an underclass of idle young men that lacked adequate socialisation. Murray argues that this leads to antisocial and criminal behaviours for young men, particularly those brought up in lone parent families. Murray also agreed with Marsland that this underclass had been socialised into subcultural norms and values that differed from those of mainstream society. These values were reinforced through over-generous benefits that meant individuals did not need to work. Like Marsland, Murray advocated benefit cuts and lower taxation as an incentive to work, But many critics have suggested that the real incentive was not lower taxation, but trying to escape being punished for falling into poverty. Like Marsland, Murray saw poverty as a failing of the individual for not working hard enough in education. New right ideology can be seen in responses to the current cost of living crisis. Whilst contemporary conservatives are more pragmatic than those at the height of the new right, they still shift the blame for poverty caused by rising prices and stagnant wages onto the individual. Their solutions include teaching people how to budget their money more effectively, rather than tackling low wages, zero-hour contracts, and the gig economy. In recent years, the number of food banks in the UK has risen, but rather than tackle the issue, new right commentators see this as a sign of greater social solidarity, with people donating goods to those less fortunate being seen as honourable, rather than food banks being a failing of the state to provide. Other solutions offered include feeding families on budget ingredients, effectively limiting choice, a key tenet of new right ideology. Some have suggested that people eat porridge and other cheap staples, which has led critics to suggest that the new right ideology is out of touch with social norms and values. A further example of new right view of poverty is the cuts to benefits and services proposed through the austerity period, thrusting many into poverty, disproportionately minority ethnic groups and those who are disabled. And this was performed to balance the budget deficits caused by the failings of the wider economic system. This made individuals pay for structural errors. And this is one of the key criticisms of new right ideology, in that it shifts the blame for structural inequality and large social problems such as underemployment, where those working are unable to gain more hours, or low-wage sectors. Furthermore, the new right suggestion of subcultural norms and values and a culture of poverty has been exaggerated according to critics. Coates and Seaburn suggested that individuals are often resigned to poverty, but that their aspirations are not to survive on handouts, as both Marsland and Murray suggest. Another criticism is that it trivialises the extent of poverty, shifting the blame away from real problems in society and dismissing the increase in percentage of those in the UK falling into poverty as being based upon their lifestyles, highlighting the leisure and consumption patterns of those in poverty and suggesting they revert to more traditional values. Whilst the new right ideology has been influential over the past 40 years in the UK, it can also be argued that it has exacerbated the issue of poverty, as income and wealth inequality has risen sharply over this period, while social mobility has been reversed, despite pledges to level up society. That concludes this Tutor to You Sociology topic video looking at work, poverty and welfare, focusing on the new right view of poverty. Thanks for watching.